You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis.
What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you?
It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, isn't it?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, trying. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Tuesday in the Quad Cities. Tuesday, January 13th. Thank you guys so much for joining us wherever you're watching around the Quad Cities or the state of Iowa or Illinois or anywhere you're watching. We greatly appreciate you doing so. If you're watching live on X, we appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. X has been very good to us. If you're on YouTube, thank you for that as well. Make sure you're subscribing. If you have subscribed, thank you. If you haven't subscribed, please do so ASAP and get active with the chat as well. We have a really spirited chat going on several days. So if you're on YouTube and you want to ask the guest questions, make fun of myself, yell at me, all of those kind of things, give your input, please do so ASAP. That would be a bunch of fun as well. You can check out the show on all the podcasting platforms as well. If you don't want to look at me, I completely understand. You can listen to the show each and every day. Just go to wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be Spotify, Apple, Podbean, iHeart, wherever you get your stuff, wherever you get your shows, and put in Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, and you can listen to the show every day. And as always, welcome to viewers in the central Iowa area. You can see the show each and every evening at 7 p.m. on the WHO streaming app. So we appreciate you guys, your feedback. 4 or 5 months putting up with me, I think, something like that. So we appreciate that, and hopefully you're enjoying the content as well. A lot of good things to get to. It's a gloomy Tuesday here in the Quad Cities. It's a great time of year for sports. Basketball is rocking and rolling. Football is ready to go. We have so much to talk about when it comes to a college football championship game coming up on Monday, the Bears game, the NFL stuff coming up this weekend, college basketball, high school basketball. It's a really fun time of year. So we have a busy day and a busy week ahead of us. Coming up on today's show, in a matter of moments, we'll get caught up with a familiar face here in the Quad Cities. Casey Kreiter just finished up his 10th season in the NFL. Former Central DeWitt standout, former Hawkeye, a captain for the Giants this past season, a long snapper for the New York Giants, and doing a great job. 10 years in the NFL, and he's ready to rock for number 11. So Casey Kreiter will join us in a matter of moments to talk about, the Giants, the NFL, his journey, but also Iowa football and Sabre football as well. So a lot to get to with Casey Kreiter coming up in just a matter of moments. Also coming up later in hour number 1, excited about this guest. I got to cover one of my final years covering high school football for WQAD was a few years ago, and Angelo Jackson over at Assumption was a really good football player, really good running back, played safety, played cornerback, all those kind of things. But also really well-spoken, nice young man. I remember going over there for previews and interviews, and he did a fantastic job. He's going to join us a little bit later on. He redshirted his first season at Iowa State. He was a redshirt freshman this past season, and he's staying at Iowa State with the new staff. So we'll talk to him, and it should be fascinating when it comes to what this last 5-6 weeks has been like, with Matt Campbell leaving, Jimmy Rogers coming in, and the new staff and all those kind of things, and what it's been like for Cyclone football, and also the pipeline between the Quad Cities and Ames, and it was really good. Especially under Coach Campbell. So we'll see if that continues as well. But Angelo Jackson, former Assumption standout and current Iowa State football player, will join us a little bit later on here in hour number 1 of the show. Coming up in hour number 2, the Iowa women went on the road last week and somehow, some way, got 2 victories. They're 5-0 in the Big Ten. Them and UCLA, the only unbeaten teams in the Big Ten. It wasn't always pretty for Iowa. Northwestern, they sleptwalked through that one, got the victory, fell behind on Sunday at Indiana, and eventually came back and won that game. 2 big games this week. So a lot to talk about when it comes to the Iowa women. Our good friend Kyle Huesmann will join us in hour number 2 of the show to break down all of that. So we have all that to get to, plus a lot more. I want to chat with you guys quickly. The NFL schedule's out for next week. It is the Bears hosting the Rams in the later game on Sunday. I think it's, and I got to be careful because I looked, and when I looked, I don't know if it was Eastern time or Central time. I'm pretty sure it's a 4:30 start on Sunday here in the Quad Cities, maybe 5:30. How is the ESPN? How is the NFL not at the very top? Come on. It should not be this hard to get to. Okay, here we go. 5:30 Central Time. So it is 5:30 Central Time. Rams at Chicago. So the matchups this weekend, Saturday at 3:30 Central Time, Buffalo and Denver. I like Buffalo. Saturday at 7 p.m., San Francisco and Seattle. Sunday at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Houston, who won last night against the Patriots, and then the nightcap. I think that's the biggest game of the weekend. And it's on NBC and Peacock as well. So Rams at Bears, my old quarterback. I've never met Matthew Stafford. My old quarterback, as a Lions fan, Matthew Stafford, going to Chicago and taking on the Bears. So one of the questions that we had yesterday when it came to our poll questions was simply the Bears' crazy comeback, where it weighs when it comes to Bears victories of all time. And most of you said top 5 all time, but there's more still ahead. So Bears fans pretty excited as well. Not a single person said it was the best ever. And I'm surprised by that. I don't think it was. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl in 85. I just thought younger fans might think that's the best Bears game ever. And it's right up there because of the team they beat as well. So the poll question for today, go to @Matt Randazzo on X. It's, what will the NFC Championship game be? All the choices are there where they would be. So if the Bears win, they would go to Seattle. If Seattle wins, they would host the Niners if the Niners win. So, and all of the matchups are there, so you can vote. Let me know, what do you think the NFC Championship game will look like next week? Basically predicting this week's divisional games as well. So the other poll question, by the way, while I'm on this crazy little thing called Twitter, was the referees in the Iowa-Illinois game yesterday. Simple question, which team had more to complain about? 30% said Iowa, 14% said Illinois. I think the correct answer was 56%. Neither, it didn't matter. It was a different game in Iowa City, and I don't think the referees did Iowa any favors, but you can't fall behind 21-5 and expect to win a football game, and that's what happened to the Hawkeyes against the Illini on Sunday. Yesterday's show, Tom Kakert and John Bonenkamp talked about that game from the Iowa perspective, Jim Madsen from the Illinois perspective, and then John Marks as well. So go check out yesterday's show as well. So a lot to get to on today's show. We're going to start with a guy that I got to cover in high school and in the college levels, and now is a 10-year veteran in the NFL. So we're joined now by a very familiar face here in the Quad Cities, New York Giants long snapper, former Sabre, former Hawkeye, Casey Kreiter. First and foremost, happy holidays, happy New Year. Year 10? Are you kidding me, Casey? How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. And yeah, that was kind of the crazy goal I had when I left college, was I want to get to 10 years. You know, I think I may have mentioned it last time I was on. 7 years was like the number I would be proud of. I always said, once I get to 7, let's get to 10. And we got to 10. So who knows? We'll see what the next number is. It'll probably be something crazy.
Do you take a moment, Casey, after the season to say, wow, like, I mean, you're busy during it and the career and working hard and all those kind of things, but was 10 in the back of your mind? And when you got done with the season, were you like, all right, that's a decade in the NFL?
Yeah, I think there's milestones I've always thought of. I think 100 games was the first one, which was an awesome feat. Remember, I got home after that game and no one had said anything. My dad didn't say anything. My mom didn't say anything. My wife didn't say anything. It's kind of a little irritated, and showed up and they had a cake ready for me to go, and it was congrats on 100 games. So that was cool. And then this year it was like, you got to get 3 games in to get the credited season. So once we hit week 3, it's kind of like, all right, we've got 10 years. Financially you max out your pension and all the benefits you get from the NFL. And then you see other people like Morgan Cox, the snapper for the Titans, just hit 250 career games, which is like unbelievable in itself. And that you look at it, and I think I took a look. I think I'm like 30 or 40 games away from 200 career games. So, you make little tiny goals to reach as the career goes on.
How has it, I don't want to say changed, but is there a big difference between year 1 and year 10? probably some stability in year 10 is a little nicer than probably what it was. And we've heard the stories of the rookie years and how it all went. But is there a huge difference to you, whether it's on the field or off the field, between year 1 and now here finishing up year 10?
I think a lot has changed in all areas. I think we finished the year with a rookie kicker, Ben Sauls, and I remember it was right before his first start. He kind of looked at myself and our punter Jamie Gill, and he said, "Man, do you ever when do I just stop getting nervous for the game?" And we looked at him and laughed, and we said, "Buddy, we still get nervous to this day." And nervous probably isn't the right word. It's probably more anxious, but that's the same, right? That feeling pregame, you put in the work, you're about to go out on the field, you don't know what you're going to get. Are you going to punt 8 times? You're going to punt 0 times. The nerves are still the same. I think the biggest difference is you kind of know what to expect. And when things pop up that are brand new or something, hey, we didn't prepare for this. After 10 years, you've seen almost all of it, and you just kind of fall back on that. So there's a little more wisdom, I think, in year 10 that you can lean back on.
Absolutely. You look at it too, and you learn a little bit as you go and you get better. How and you feel great. Like we just got done talking, and you're in the same phase that I'm in. No working out. Yours is to rest. Mine is I'm lazy. How do you feel after 10 years in the NFL? Body wise, mentally, you seem ready to rock. This isn't like 10 years and I'm hitting the finish line. You seem like you got a lot more gas left in the tank.
I feel like it. Staying healthy is the big part. I think I've had such good people around me that kind of have helped tweak my training, my nutrition, and I don't try to overly complicate it. I had a strength coach ask me this year, like, "Hey, I'm just curious. It was a new strength guy. Why do you do that? Why do you do that on Thursday? Why do you do that on Wednesday? Why are you lifting 3 times a week instead of 2?" I just told him, I said, I can't tell you why. We started tweaking things. What I've been doing makes me feel good. I'm just going to keep doing it. And when I stop feeling as good as I feel, we'll try something new. And if it continues to make me feel good, we'll keep doing it. But yeah, I ran faster than I've ever run in my career. They track GPS numbers every game this year. I'm stronger than I've ever been. So hopefully just keep continuing to do that and playing at a high level. And keep doing this until the wheels fall off.
Casey Kreiter joining us right now and Off There with Matt Randazzo. Casey, you look at this season and let's talk a little NFL on the field. It was a weird year for the Giants. They make a coaching change in the middle of the season. There were some pluses. There was a lot of talent, I think, on that team, and I think the rest of the NFL would probably agree. Before we look at the future, what was this year like for yourself, for the players in New York? And it's always difficult when you're making changes like that in the middle of a season.
I think you've seen it in the history of the NFL. I've seen it myself. When you have a season like we had, teams can fall apart. The locker room can get very toxic, but this was a really special group. Like, we were really close. Everyone in the locker room was super close, between players and players to staff to staff. It was a really fun group to be a part of. And I think I told my wife before the season, I said, if we can win some football games, this is going to be one of the most fun teams I've ever been a part of. And when we won, it was like that. When we lost, there was no dissension. Everyone kind of jumped back into the boat and tried rowing in the right direction. We just didn't get the results, and that was unfortunate. The crazy thing for me personally this year was, we went through 4 different kickers, most of it due to injuries, which is just kind of an anomaly. It was a wild year. We lost our punter for a game. So for me personally, kind of constantly changing who the 3 battery is was a wild wrinkle that I didn't have on my bingo card. And then you end the year with the first lefty kicker since 2018 in the last 3 games of the year, which was crazy. But I think it's a testament to, again, the group guys we have in the room, our punter Jamie Gillen, kicker Ben Sauls at the end there, and even Graham Gano, who was a huge mentor to these guys as Graham was dealing with his own injuries. Just a pro's pro. But just being able to make the adjustments and continue to play at a high level is something I can be proud of. But again, results were not where we wanted. But the NFL it's hard to win in this league, and it's little tiny details that get you. And looking forward to the future, just trying to correct all those things and get back to winning. That year we went to the playoffs was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I bet it was. And it's funny. I should be refreshing Twitter or X or whatever they call it nowadays, because who knows what happens when in this league. But there is a coaching vacancy, and it's funny because when you talk about that vacancy, people talk about it with a lot of expectation. I think it's one of the more sought after openings in the NFL because of probably the same thing that you just talked about. You like the core and some of the talent there. What is a coach going to get when they come into a situation in New York when it comes to the locker room, the talent? I think there's a good foundation already there.
Yeah, I think we have a really good group of veterans from Bobby Okereke and Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas, guys like Greg Van Roten, just a good group of guys that have been in the building and been around, but also been on other teams and played in the league and had success, that can kind of help, guide the ship from the inside out. And then you got an unbelievable group of young guys like Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo brought a very fun energy to the locker room. And not only did they bring the energy in the locker room, you saw it in their play. Like when you watch Scat run the ball, it's hard not to just like want to raise your own level because the dude's putting his body on the line every single rep. Same thing with Jackson Dart. And I'm missing a bunch of guys in there. And obviously guys will leave, roster will change. Some of the guys might not be here. But I think everything looks good for the New York Giants. Everything's looking up. And I can promise you from a player standpoint, everybody in that building is working as hard as they can to do their job to help win football games. And I think that's all you can really ask. And then you just got to put it all together on Sundays.
I want to talk to you a little bit about punting because, and this is what Pat Anger and I were talking last night about you coming on and punting. And it is different because what we run at Iowa and what's run elsewhere is different. College football's changing, the spread or whatever, it's probably already changed. And then the NFL, I think it's getting into that a little bit, but not as much. Talk to me about punting in general and how much it's changing when it comes to spreads and what you used to do, what you've been doing for so long, and some of the new things that you're asked to do.
Yeah, I think my time at Iowa, we ran pro punt, which was just a traditional a punt team. There's a pocket, the punter stands behind 8 guys in front of them and try to punt behind the wall. And as I was graduating, this spread punt kind of came on the scene in college football. Now, the rules between the NFL and college are different. In college, after the ball is snapped, anybody can run down the field and go cover the punt right away. In the NFL, only the outside guys, we call them the gunners, can release and try to go get the returner. Everybody else on the interior has to wait until the ball's punted. So you're seeing this spread punt kind of trickle into the NFL. I don't think the Giants were the first team to do it. 3 years ago, we ran it, maybe 30-40% of our punts. And I think that was kind of the first year where you saw that volume of a spread punt in the NFL. And we found a way to piece it together. We were really successful at it. I think we set the record for the Giants at their net punt record. And now you see more teams doing it. New Orleans does it a bunch. Denver does it a bunch. Teams are throwing it in as a wrinkle to dictate what happens in the game. But along with that is you're getting guys and players who have played in that scheme and they know how to attack it. So it's an evolving play, much like the kickoff is evolving. It's something that if you're not paying attention, you might not notice what's going on. But I think that's what makes this game so much fun. So it's made it interesting for me. I'd never run pro or spread punt until I got to the NFL. Now I'm trying to figure out how to do it, where young guys may have reached out to me and said, hey, can you teach me how to protect in traditional punt? I'm reaching out to them going, hey, what the heck are you guys looking at in this spread punt? Yeah. So kind of roles reversed there, which was interesting when it happened, and it'll continue to happen. I ran into Luke Elkin as he got signed with the Raiders, former Iowa long snapper, when we played him, and it was fun catching up with him and just kind of hearing how his transition from college to the pros is going, but also from spread punt to having to learn how the traditional punt's going.
Absolutely. Casey Kreiter joining us right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Let's talk a little Hawkeyes, because I know you're focused on the task at hand during the NFL season, but you would be lying to say you weren't paying attention to what happened and what's going on with the alma mater. Your thoughts on this Iowa football season? 9-4, a bowl victory. I mean, the mantra is 4 games by 15 points, so close in so many games. Your thoughts from maybe a little more outside looking in at Hawkeye football this past season?
I'll tell you what, this is a fun team to watch. I think about our locker room with the Giants when I was playing Vanderbilt in the bowl game. We got done with practice and it was kind of the right there at the end of the game. Vandy was still kind of in it. And I mean, there were 20 guys and all of our beat writers, because we have open media after practices, sitting around the TV watching it happen. And it was funny because there's a large group of Hawkeyes on the Giants team. It was Chauncey Golston, Dane Belton, Amir Smith-Marset, Tyrone Tracy's in there, myself. And we're just watching. Everyone's kind of like, whoa, what's going on? And we're just laughing. Like, this is Iowa football. Like, we play defense. If we got to score, we'll find a way to score. But it's tough to beat Iowa when you're down and score against a Phil Parker defense. So it was really fun to watch. I don't get to watch a whole lot, but the big moments were the games against Oregon and Indiana, really close games, kind of came down to one, 2 or 3 plays. And I'm excited to see where it goes. I wish Coach Ferentz could be immortal and he could do it forever because he's the best. I'm super fortunate to get to spend time with former teammates of mine, James and Steve Ferentz, who are on our staff with the Giants. So it's fun to kind of keep up with them, talk Iowa football in between, periods during practice, and kind of just stay involved. But man, it's always fun to watch Iowa football. They have such consistency with the coaching staff that a former player, you still feel invested. Where I see a lot of teammates in the NFL where since they've been in it, their school's changed coaches 2 or 3 times, and they really have no care for what's going on. It's just a name to them. For us, it's still family.
Are there any non-Hawkeyes on the Giants? That's a lot of Hawkeyes on that team. That's a beautiful thing. You mentioned Coach Ferentz, and I was going to talk to you a little more about him because and the way college football has changed. When it first started getting weird, and I love Coach Ferentz, but I'm curious how he's going to be able to adapt to everything, the changes, the portal, the NIL, all that kind of stuff. And he seems to do it at such a high level and maybe different from other schools at a level that you feel proud of, if that makes any sense, but doing things the right way still, which is always the Kirk Ferentz way. You mentioned you wish he was immortal. He doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. That's a good thing for Iowa football, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think the thing that Coach Ferentz does best that I envy the most, as a player, as maybe a coach someday, but most importantly as like a father to my own children and a husband, is he knows what's the most important things. And when it comes to football, he knows what's important to winning, what's important to building the right culture. And I think I've never talked to him about this just from looking on the outside. I think he just sticks with those things. No matter what's happening around it, no matter what's happening with portal, NIL, rule changes, roster changes, whatever it is, he just goes, hey, we'll figure that stuff out. But the most important things are the most important things. Let's focus on that. And I think that's where you see the consistency.
No, absolutely. Casey, when you look at that program as well, and I should have probably looked, but LeVar was there when you were there. I don't know if he was the special teams coordinator when you were there. But he's leaving, and that's a guy that's done a ton for the program and for a room that very well when it comes to the special teams. Your thoughts when you hear that LeVar is getting another opportunity and moving on at the University of Iowa?
Yeah, so Coach Woods was there when I was being recruited in, I think, my first couple of years there. But he was kind of an assistant role. He wasn't working directly with special teams, but man, he was huge in my development as a long snapper. And we stay in touch all the time. We chat throughout the year. It was funny. A couple weeks before everything got announced with Pat Fitzgerald going to Michigan State, then Coach Woods going there. Coach Fitzgerald was in our building here helping Mike Kafka out, our interim head coach. And I got to chat with him and talk to him. And we talked about, when I was playing and he was at Northwestern, and we had a nice chat. And then I saw all the things happening, and I said something to Coach Kafka. I said, "Kaf, come on now, I really like that guy. And now I kind of feel I don't really like him a whole lot. You're taking guys from Iowa to Michigan State, including Joel Welsh, the head strength coach who was at Iowa when I was there. Unbelievable. But no, in all seriousness, I shot Coach Woods a text, let him know how happy I was for him. He's huge in my life. I'm excited for him to have an opportunity to potentially advance his career and take it wherever it wants to go. But the Hawkeye in me is sad to see him go. Listening to Tyler Kluver's podcast, I think him and I realized it at the same time when he was talking about it. It sounds like that entire room is going to have a new coordinator and maybe all three brand new specialists, which is maybe unprecedented for Iowa football. But I mean, Iowa does the best. They know how to find specialists. They value special teams. So I don't expect anything less than success for that group.
Yeah, Tom Kakert was on the show yesterday and it said to keep an eye out for an Australian punter, which is crazy, of course, because they're all Australian nowadays. But that might be the next piece to fall for the Iowa Hawkeyes in that room as well. When you look at, you talked about the Hawkeyes that are in the NFL. Can you talk to me about, and I always feel it, but I don't know if it's true or not, they going to the University of Iowa usually translates to success in the NFL, or opportunity in the NFL might be the better word for it. How is the University of Iowa looked upon in the league? You know, you just mentioned all your teammates that are former Hawkeyes, and I think the majority of them that you mentioned probably aren't 5-star kids. I'm trying to think back to the recruiting when they came in and stuff, and there they are making money on Sundays. How do you think the NFL views Iowa football, if that makes any sense?
I think the biggest thing is Iowa runs their program in a manner that is a lot like the NFL. You're there to have fun. You're there to play a sport that we all love. But at the end of the day, there's a level of business that you're doing when you're in the building, right? When you're in the building, it's time on task. You're in meetings. You're engaged with the meetings. You're engaged in film study. And if you're not there for that, you're in the weight room working to get better. You're on the practice field, practicing. You're in the training room rehabbing. So there's not a whole lot of BS outside of what you're there to do. So when you get to the NFL, some guys that I've seen, some younger guys who come from other programs, it takes them a minute to realize, like, this is a business in the NFL. Like, yes, you're here to play football. It's the same sport you've played, but recruiting's done. Like, you're a 22-year-old that's competing with a 33-year-old who has 2 kids, and this is a business. And this is like playing football is how that 33-year-old feeds his family, while you're 22, young, and you got lots of things and everything's looking up. Like, the stakes are a little different for each of you. And it's business. So when you come from Iowa, I think you've already have that established. When you get in the building, you're there for the work. You'll enjoy your time outside of it. But I think teams appreciate that part of it, that they don't have to coach that part about Iowa Hawkeyes. That part's already instilled into them based on the program.
Casey Kreiter joining us on OTA. I want to talk to you about your high school program before you get out of here, because the Central DeWitt Sabres had a really good season this year, and it reminded me of some of the olden days of Sabre football. I know you're keeping track of Iowa. Do you still keep track of the Sabres and what's going on in Central DeWitt? And they just got done with a fantastic season this past year.
I was fortunate. We spent about a month, probably about 2 weeks back in Iowa in the summer, right before our training camp around the 4th of July. So I got to be around around DeWitt's program. I was lifting, running with them, got to meet the new coaches, a couple of the guys. And I probably don't follow it as close as I'd like. But I remember I was shocked. I saw a stat, I think on X. It was like top 10 receivers I think they're 3A or whatever class they're in. And 3 of the top 10 were DeWitt wide receivers.
Yeah.
So I called my dad and I was like, yo, what's going on? We're throwing the ball like that. When we were there, we were running the balls like crazy. So always happy to see their success. DeWitt's a great town. They got good coaches there, great facilities, and I love to see that success. I think the only thing I actually check on most years is, as long as we beat Makokata, I'm feeling pretty good about it. There is a part of me that's jealous that DeWitt's now in the MAC. When I was going to school, when you were a freshman and sophomore, you would always cross over with Assumption, Bettendorf, maybe North Scott in the freshman sophomore games. That was a point of pride for us because we were a lower class. If we could stick with them or end up beating them in those games, you had a little bragging rights within the area, the Quad City area. But now that they're in the same conference and I'd get a chance to do it every year, I'd love that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You look at it, Casey, and you're in New York. You're an Iowa boy. You've been in Denver and Colorado, that area. You're in the big city. You're around the big city, obviously. Do you still, when you get back for a week or two in Iowa in the summertime, are you still an Iowa boy? You haven't changed, have you?
No, I mean, when we were back, I loved it. We were out on the lake, we were fishing, got the kids, got the life jackets on. We got on the boat, threw some worms in the lake, catching some crappies and bluegills. So we love it. Our kids, like, it must be an Iowa thing. Like they could eat, a dozen sweet corn each if we would let them. So the sweet corn out here in Jersey is not as good as it is there in Iowa. And if anyone says differently, they're wrong. They just haven't had Iowa sweet corn. So it never leaves you. I miss it. I miss the small town living. The people, the community that is just Iowa in general, and that'll never leave. I don't think myself.
You mentioned your dad, one of my favorite people, such a good guy. His goal was to get to every stadium, I think, in the NFL. Has he gotten there yet? And what's it like for him? I mean, I've talked to him about it. What's it like for you? Always looking around and seeing Dad watching you play the game you love, and you guys built such a obviously the roots of your football love probably come from your dad.
Yeah, I think he's got one stadium left, and I do too. We would have got it last year. We were supposed to play the Panthers in Carolina, but we played our game in Germany. So the Carolina Panthers is the last stadium, I think, on both our checklists. But the game in Germany was awesome. But it's funny to watch my dad's transition, because early in my career, when he was at a game, you couldn't talk to him. My wife couldn't talk to him. My mom couldn't talk to him. Teammates, buddies from high school, my sister, he was locked in. And now when I look up and I see him in the stands, he's usually sitting next to his grandson, my oldest, my 8-year-old, and they're laughing. He's watching the game, but he's more talking to Landon. And I get done and he's like, man, Landon has so many questions, and I love answering all these questions about football and what's going on. And I kind of sit back and laugh, and I go, yeah, but if anyone tried to do that earlier in my career, you would have just ignored them and told them to leave you alone. You're watching the game. But not only did he instill the love of football in me, but I think he's kind of influencing my oldest, going to the games with my dad, watching the game, my dad answering all the questions. It's a really cool thing to see. And we talked earlier about the differences. Like, that's a big difference. Early in my career, I was playing for maybe my own success, prove that I could do it, financial success. Now I get to look up in the stands and I see, 3, 4 of my kids up there, depending on whether and who went to the game. And now it's like I'm playing for them, right? I'm playing so that they can be proud of what I'm putting out on the field and all that. And it's been a really fun journey.
Is that one of the reasons why 10, 12, 15 years is important? Because if this was a 5-year career, Landon doesn't see you play football at all. And is that part of, maybe a reason why, as long as you can do this, is great, because your own kids get to watch you do what you did at a high level?
Yeah, I think part of me wants to play long enough where the kids remember me playing, where I don't have to find YouTube clips, or I don't have to call the video department for the teams I've played on and say, hey, I need video so I can prove to my kids that I actually did play in the NFL. I want them to remember it. So I think Landon's old enough where he'll remember. Brecken, she's 6. She may right now, but I'm not stopping anytime soon. And then the younger two, Quincy and Madden, the goal is to play long enough where they can either remember going to games or they remember the training camps, because that's the best part. After a training camp practice, it's hot. You've been in the building all day. You stay in a hotel for a month. You don't ever see your family. But after a practice, you get 30 minutes to be on the field. They'll bring Gatorades and waters out, and you just get to run around with the other kids and teammates. And that's what I love. Those are the memories and the moments that I'll remember forever.
Before I let you go, I know you are friends with Pat Anger. I got to ask you your thoughts on him. Actually, you're not listening to the radio out there. You can't be. But he is yet to get canceled in 2 years of being on live radio for 5 hours a day. Are you as surprised in that? What's more surprising, 10 years in the NFL or Pat not getting canceled in the last 2 years?
Man, I think the money, the bet about Pat getting canceled would have been the favorite. So if you bet the opposite, I think you would be a very rich man if that was a bet you could do. But I'm so happy for Pat's success. I call him once or twice a year. He always picks up. He's always got something funny to say that probably would get him canceled if it was aired publicly. But that's what makes Pat the best. I'll never forget the 2 years we lived in Iowa. Like, I called Pat and we used him when he was doing loans and stuff. And he said, his first response when I said, hey, I want to use you, he said, you don't want to use me. I don't know what I'm doing. And I said, no, Pat, I do want to use you because you don't know what you're doing, but you've admitted that you don't know what you're doing.
Yes.
So I can trust. We're going to work through this together. Pat's a friend for life. He's a mentor, someone I looked up to my freshman year. Was very fortunate that got to spend a lot of time with him. I don't know if I told this story. I was a young linebacker trying to figure it out. And I think I asked him, like, hey, Pat, do you care if I just sit in the linebacker room while you and Jeremiah Hunter and AJ Eads watch tape? He kind of laughed. I don't think he thought I would do it. I just remember I would just sit in the back of the room and just not say a word. And I just listened to their conversations and watch them watch tape. And at one point, I think he turned around. And he was shocked I was in there. And he just was like, if you're going to be in here, you have to at least say something or sit where we can see you. You're being a weirdo back there. But was huge for my own development. Owe him a lot. And I love the guy.
Remind him every time you see him that you played twice as long in the NFL as he did. Just, I'll be doing that as well. Get to 3 times as long. 15 years would be great, right?
I would love to. I'm gonna have to check the salaries because I don't want to pull that one out until I make sure I've maybe made more money than you.
I think
you made some good money there.
you're probably safe. Yeah, we'll compare and contrast. Casey, I always appreciate your time. I love catching up with you. I know my Lions play the Giants next year. I can't remember if it's road or home. We always go to a game, but I've already talked to my kids and I'm like, if the Giants game's at home, we're going to Ford Field because I want to check you and all the Hawkeyes out too. As of right now, obviously things change and stuff, but stay healthy, enjoy the kids, all that kind of stuff. Tell your dad I said hi, and we'll talk to you again real soon. I appreciate you, my friend.
Appreciate it.
All right, that is Casey Kreiter, long snapper for the Giants, of course, former Hawkeye, former Central DeWitt Sabre. All around really good human being. A lot of great stuff there when it comes to the NFL. Also his knowledge and thoughts of the Iowa Hawkeyes. And then back here at home, he says, as long as they beat Makokada, I love that as well. So we got much more to get to. Coming up after the break, we're going to chat with another local standout doing some good things at the college level. Angelo Jackson was at Iowa State. He was there through the change of coaches, and he continues to be a Cyclone. He'll talk with us right after this. You're watching OTA on a Tuesday. We'll be right back. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak, with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Tuesday in the Quad Cities. It's been an interesting, crazy, wild month or so for the Iowa State football program. Of course, Matt Campbell going to Penn State, and Jimmy Rogers coming from Washington State to Iowa State. And when you look at, and I remember doing it for 25 years, a lot of time earlier in my career, the University of Iowa had a great pipeline from the Quad Cities. And in recent years, I'll be honest, it's been kind of flipped a little bit, where there's been some go to Iowa, but Iowa State has done a great job of coming to the Quad Cities and getting some of their best athletes and their best football players. Darian Porter was one of those that got drafted by the Raiders last year. Another one in in Ames, and staying in Ames, is Assumption Standout Angelo Jackson. And Angelo joins us right now on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. First and foremost, how are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Oh, it's great to see you as well. It's been good. It's been a chaotic last month and a half, but it's all is well, and it'll be exciting going forward. So
much to talk about. Obviously, you're going to be a redshirt sophomore, defensive back.
Yeah.
Great career at Assumption. You went to Iowa State, and I'm sure Matt Campbell and that staff was a big reason why. What was that like? First off, before we talk about him going to Penn State, talk about your commitment to going to Iowa State and the reasons. And I'm assuming Matt Campbell and his staff was a big important part of that.
Mm-hmm. Right. So they really recruited me when I was a sophomore in high school. I got an invite from them to go over to a game, and ever since I was a sophomore in high school, and ever since then I was just like, I put all my eggs in one basket. You shouldn't do that with recruiting, but I was like, this is the place. I want to come here. So seeing that change was crazy. Obviously, I was familiar with a lot of the coaches. A lot of them are from Ohio, and originally my parents are from Ohio, and so there was some connections there, which was really good to see. But having those connections with those coaches, and I liked a lot of them. All of them are great, and Coach Campbell, obviously, the big one is that was tough to lose, but they were a huge reason why I went to Iowa State. They offered, not only was it competitive, but there was a team aspect, and there was a huge culture aspect that, Coach Campbell emphasized that was, top of the line. It was unlike, a lot of the other places you hear about. It was really team first, aside from, all the other stuff that's kind of going around with college football nowadays, which is, good.
You look at it too, and you mentioned loving it, going up there and wanting to go there, and then you saw the guys from our area going there. Kind of talk about that, because we did a show on draft day over in Iowa with Darian Porter, and he got drafted and all those kind of things, and spoke the same way about Matt Campbell. Mm-hmm. When you get up there and you like it, you like the coaches, and then the ties to the Quad Cities. It's been a great connection between Iowa State and the Quad Cities, hasn't it?
It has. It's been an amazing connection. Darian Porter was a guy I knew, like, when I first moved to Iowa. I ran AAU track, and Darian Porter was like the top dog when I got there, and he was maybe 4 years older than me, but I was always trying to get to that guy's level, and then I see he's going to Iowa State, and so I was like, oh man, that's a great school. And then fast forward down the road, there's this guy Tyler Morrow, and I think it was his senior year was my freshman year, and I'm hearing about him and the great things he's doing and all the interest he's picking up, and he had all these offers, and he's going to Iowa State, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like. That's two guys, I knew quite well that are going to this school, like, what's going on over there. And then I get the call and stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm all in. So.
Absolutely. And you look at it, it was kind of a roller coaster ride for the Cyclones this year. A great start, a little rough patch, but the way you guys finished, fantastic. 8-4, kind of getting ready for what's next. And then comes the news that Matt Campbell's leaving, and he's a guy that's been there forever, Angelo, and 10 years, loyal as can be. When did you start hearing that something might be happening between Penn State and Coach Campbell?
Right. So there would always been like a little bit of buzz of like, oh, he's taking an interview with the Bears or with this, and all his players were like, nah, like he's probably just looking at it to see his options or whatnot, and then. It was that Thursday or Friday. We had heard absolutely nothing. And I remember I wake up from a nap or whatnot. I'm getting ready to go to class, and I check my phone, and it's like Coach Campbell's finalizing a deal with Penn State. And I was like, what? I didn't believe it at first. I had to go check with all my roommates, and that was just crazy. Obviously a great opportunity for him, but, just seeing that, it's hard. You don't think it can happen to you and your team, but things are the way they are, and that was kind of how it fell. But I see great opportunity with Matt Campbell going to Penn State and with Jimmy Rogers coming to Iowa State. So
talk about that, because there wasn't much time, honestly, to go, oh no, what's next? Because I think you saw one, and then probably 12 hours later, if not less than that, you saw Jimmy Rogers coming to Iowa State. How quickly do you start going online and educating yourself maybe about what Jimmy Rogers is like, who he is, and what's coming to Ames?
Right, because he had a team meeting, and that was after we had found out that he was finalizing this deal. We hadn't heard like 100% for sure. So we have this team meeting, and he comes in and he tells us he's going to take the job. And I think most of us kind of expected that when they came in. And immediately right after that, we flipped the script, and we have hired Coach Rogers, like immediately after that. And so I guess that was good in the sense that there left no room of uncertainty or doubt. And so immediately when we found out, we could go home and see who this guy was, his credentials. Some people had already heard about him. I had heard about him a little bit. But him, Jamie Pollard coming in and telling us who the new coach is going to be, I think was good. Obviously, some guys, they took it a little bit differently. But it was really positive in the sense that, he's got great credentials. He's got, championship mentality. He's a great coach, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do.
Absolutely. Angelo Jackson joining us right now and Off There with Matt Randazzo. Angelo, you mentioned Coach Pollard Coach Campbell coming in and talking to you. What was that? I mean, that conversation had to be emotional. I know that just even talking with the media, Coach Pollard, Matt Campbell, even when he's announced in Penn State, emotions were there. What was that conversation like with Matt Campbell for the last time?
It was emotional for sure, because when Coach Campbell, he's a guy that wants everything for the team and for you. To see him, he did not want to, he knew it would hurt our feelings that he left, but we understood that he's leaving for a better opportunity. And Coach Campbell, I mean, he's the greatest players coach ever. He knows you, he knows your family, he knows so much about you. So to see him go, it hurt for a bit, it stung. But we knew that this opportunity he was taking was huge for his career. And honestly, I don't know many coaches that are going to turn that down, because he had done so much for Iowa State, and he had made Iowa State football great. He really had. And you've seen in the past couple of years, we've been playing really well, and that's all thanks to Matt Campbell there. So, I mean, the emotions were there, but we knew it was for the best. For sure.
When did you know yourself that, and I kind of just the backstory of being a sophomore and wanting to go to Ames and that program,
right?
The loyalty is obviously something that's probably in your blood. Did you consider your options of what may be, or did you say, this is the school that I wanted to go to, I'm staying in Ames no matter what?
No, I really didn't consider, the whole transfer portal thing and all that. I just didn't. I was just like, I got 3 years of ball left, a new coach. It's nice because I knew some of the guys he brought in, because a lot of them are from South Dakota State, and they had recruited me when I was in high school. Okay. So there was a little bit of chemistry there already. But there was I didn't kind of jump to conclusions or jump to the deep end of transfer. No, I didn't really want to do that, just because, the culture is always going to be there, and what Coach Rogers is bringing in I don't think is going to change at all. I think Coach Campbell left something that is going to stay even when he leaves, and that's really important. And I think that's a huge reason why I didn't even consider it.
Obviously, you were one of those players that were going to stay and build again and all those kind of things. What was it like around campus and around the team? Did you find yourself being a recruiter, knowing that you were staying, saying, hey, hang out here? Or what was it kind of like watching everything? Because it's not an Iowa State thing, Angelo. It's a college football thing. When something like that happens, and it's not even a college football thing, you can take it. I mean, it's a college basketball thing. Look at the University of Iowa. Fran McCaffrey leaves and one guy stays and 12 guys leave, or whatever it will be. So what was it like being there and watching the program change as much as it did? And could you kind of see people doing different things and struggling with different decisions to make?
Right. I mean, week after, people are started announcing, okay, I'm gonna hit the transfer portal when it finally opens, and you go to the locker room and you're looking at these guys who are teammates who are really good friends of yours, and you hate to see them leave, but obviously you wish them the best. Some guys you maybe had in your mind like, he's probably going to transfer. Some guys were like, no, I don't think he's going to transfer, and then he does. It's just part of the game now. And when your coach leaves or not, there's always some players at the end of the year that might consider hitting the transfer portal. But it was crazy. Open up Twitter, it was like, now this guy's leaving, now this guy's leaving. It was unfortunate, but I know all those guys are getting better opportunities somewhere, so I'm excited to see that.
You have a little time at home, and then you head back. So it's kind of that period where you're not locked in and maybe around it as much. What do you know about the staff that you brought in? I know you've met them a couple times, and you continue to have to build that relationship. But what do you know? What do you expect? And what are you excited about?
Yeah, so I got to meet with a lot of them actually before I left to come home, and obviously they had to go coach their bowl game and whatnot. But they're great guys. Obviously, they're going to be bringing their schemes and some of their players into the program because you just have to at that point. We had lost so many people, but their coaching styles, their playbooks, it's all going to be coming in. So obviously it's going to be a new opportunity to learn new things. Obviously we had Coach Haycock was our defensive coordinator, and we ran that 3-3-5. Not a lot of teams run that, so Coach Rogers is coming in with a new scheme and new stuff. So that's going to be something to learn, something to adjust to. But I'm excited. I talked with a lot of coaches, and they're really eager to get us working with the guys that are staying and obviously the new guys that are coming in. So it's going to be exciting.
Former Assumption standout and Iowa State cornerback Angelo Jackson joining us right now on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. Let's talk about you personally, because you get to Iowa State and you redshirt. You're a redshirt freshman last year. Where are you at in your development? We kind of mentioned Darian Porter's name several times, and you look at someone like that who was patient and got his opportunity. Mm-hmm. What's your mindset when it comes to where you're at in your career? And obviously, I think I texted you the other day and you were working out. So obviously hard at work, getting better. Where are you at in your development, do you feel?
I think that I'm still, in the learning stage. Obviously, as a football player, you're always learning. But when you're coming in, and especially at this time when you have a new coach, you got to really be a sponge. You got to soak in everything. And coming to Iowa State and really focusing on corner was big for me, because I came from Assumption where I was kind of doing a little bit of everything. I was really focused on running back, and I was, playing safety, playing corner, playing, whatnot. And really coming to Iowa State and having to hone in on the technical ability at corner, it wasn't challenging, but it was something that I really needed to perfect, because that corner, that is, your technique is huge. It's getting harder and harder every day to play corner against these wide receivers, especially with, how the referees officiate and stuff like that. So you really had to hone in on your craft for sure, and especially the mental side of the game as well, because that's probably the biggest jump. I wouldn't say it's physical, but also like your studying of the game, the amount of film you watch, the meetings you're in, everything you're soaking in. You're not just learning your position, you're learning the guy next to you, you're learning the front line, you're learning everything about it, different situations, all that. So I think that's kind of where I'm at in my journey, still learning. I do trust myself and I have confidence in myself, whether I'm out in the field or not. But obviously, any football player at any level, high school, college, NFL, they're always learning and trying to up their game. So that's definitely where I'm at for sure.
Absolutely. Little personal stuff back at the Quad Cities. When you're at Ames and you get home, what do you miss? And obviously family and all that kind of stuff, but is there a place that you got to hit up food-wise when you come home to, like, hey, I'm in Ames and I'm craving this or I'm craving that?
Yeah. I've been in energy drinks recently, and there's this place called the Atomic Coffee Bar. It's here in Davenport, and me and my older sister, younger sister, they kind of hook me on it. But I go there when they're home with me, and I get an energy drink maybe before a workout or something. But maybe a place like that, or like the Foundry or something. There's a lot of the new places out by the Betplex and whatnot. So it's always great to come back and see family and see all the stuff. So that's good. If
you could have dinner or a drink at Atomic with anybody in the world, with anybody, Who would it be and why?
Kind of put me on the spot with that question. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go with Denzel Washington right now. And
Okay.
I've watched a lot of his movies recently, and I really have been keeping up with him on social media, and just the things that he preaches and how he is as a man and how he is as a leader is really it really means something to me, because he's like, he's got everything. He has everything, but he's still working on how to improve his craft and also be humble as a man. And I think that's super inspiring. That's somebody I've watched growing up and whatnot. And he's not only an amazing actor, but he's fantastic, and he's wise, and he's just great. So, maybe that was like a little niche actor pool, but
I like it.
That's the guy. So
That's well said. Coolest contact in your phone, and don't say Tim O'Neill. Like that's not cool. So like, is there a cool contact in your phone? If you'd say, I got this number, I got that number.
I'm gonna go with I'd probably go with Coach Campbell. I mean, he's a pretty cool contact to have on your phone, especially with all the buzz about him. That's pretty nice. No like crazy celebrities or anything. Maybe some of the teammates that play with there in the league, but that's about as wild as it gets right now.
No, Penn State's head coach is a good one to have. Trust me.
Yeah, right.
It's a good one to have as well.
Right.
Angelo, before I let you go, I found out earlier this week you met Pat Anger. Was it disappointing to see how fat and out of shape a former NFL linebacker was?
I mean, he looks pretty swole, so he's definitely got that linebacker in him still. So no, he's everything I thought he was going to be. So he seems like a great guy.
Do you? Well, you'll find out differently. No, I'm kidding. Do you remind Iowa fans when you come home about a certain score that's happened 2 years in a row in a certain game called the Cyhawk game? Do you make sure do you enjoy being around Iowa fans knowing that you guys have low bragging rights right now?
Yeah, it's nice because Iowa State's really been on a tear this year, especially when we're playing against Iowa. You got wrestling, you got basketball, men's basketball, football, women's basketball, all these things, and it's nice to kind of like have a little bit of bragging rights. But no, it's great. Especially in the Quad Cities, I feel like it's a lot of Iowa fans. So I've always been surrounded by that. Even when I committed, it was like, oh, you're going to Iowa State. Sorry, it's a Hawk State. But no, it's great. It's good.
No, I love it. Angelo, last one too. When it comes to influences on you growing up, coaching wise, all those kind of things, where would you say your biggest influences have been to this point in your career?
I'm going to go with, I played my sophomore year varsity football, and I'm sure you remember the name, the Argo, and I had a player named Johnny Argo really took me under his wing, and I think he was a huge influence, just how tough he was. Not even just him, his entire family. He's had a huge influence on me throughout high school, and then I'd say my mom and dad. Yeah. My dad played running back at Kent State, and then my mom. She played sports at a really, really small D3 school in Ohio, and they kind of taught me, the mentality you need to have when you go and play college sports, and the work ethic you need to maintain when you get into the college level, because everybody's good when you get there. Everybody's fast, everybody's strong. So it's not just how fast you are, how strong you are. It's up here, and I think that's something I definitely carried, and I'm going to try and keep pushing for sure.
One more, I lied, and it's just to get you in trouble.
It's all good.
Who's the better athlete, your mom or your dad?
I'm going to say,
careful.
I'm going to go with my mom.
I
know I'm going to start a war with one side of my family. I'll say my mom. I'll take the safe answer. I'll go with my mom. But,
smart man. Got to keep mom happy. Got to keep mama happy.
Yeah, keep my mom happy, right.
Angelo, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. We're pulling for you. We're rooting for you. Go easy on the Hawks next year, maybe. But other than that, kick butt the rest of the way, all that kind of stuff. And we'll catch up with you again soon. Thanks, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. That's Angelo Jackson, former Assumption standout, currently at Iowa State. And it's been a crazy month or so with the Cyclones. But as you can tell, happy for Coach Campbell. And I think that was the understanding that you got from the vast majority of Cyclone Nation, and excited about what Jimmy Rogers is bringing in and his staff and all of those things as well. We got much more to get to. You're watching OTA on a Tuesday. We'll be right back. Are you looking to take your next party, tailgate, or golf outing to the next level? You need mobile party experience. MPX features 3 top-of-the-line party trailers equipped with all the amenities you need to party like a rock star. Smart TVs, Yeti coolers, JBL sound systems, grills, bathrooms, and much more. Mobile party experience is an experience like no other. Check out my-mpx.com or call 563-514-1470 and book your mobile party experience today.
Give me the keys. Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Tuesday in the Quad Cities. It was a productive week for the Iowa women's basketball team last week. Going on the road, getting 2 victories, it wasn't always pretty, but in the standings, in the record books, they are victories, especially the second one. Going to Indiana and falling behind early and figuring a way to get a victory in Indiana. Big for the Hawkeyes as they head home 5-0 in Big Ten play and ready for a big week at Carver Hawkeye Arena. So let's talk a little Iowa women's basketball with our Iowa women's basketball expert and the face of the Hawkeye Report, Kyle Huesmann. Kyle, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. You were busy last week traveling all around the Midwest.
Yeah, I was out in Evanston and then down in Bloomington, whatever you want to call it, down in Bloomington, up in Evanston. I don't know what you want to say. But yeah, I was out at both of those games, and you kind of hit it on the head there. Not their prettiest performances, certainly not their best performances. And going forward, they're not going to be able to necessarily play like that against some of the ranked teams they've got left. But as you mentioned, I mean, 5-0 in Big Ten play, there's only 2 teams that are 5-0, 2 teams that are undefeated, and it's UCLA and Iowa. So I think it's one of those things that you look at it after this past week and say, yeah, they didn't play well, but 5-0 is still 5-0. And it's hard to argue with those results so far.
Oh, absolutely. Kyle, when you look at it, you got to find ways to win, and it's a younger team. It still is. I know you have veterans that you rely on and that have been there in a while, but you have newer faces, and you're trying to put this whole thing together. You're getting better and winning basketball games at the same time. I think if you're Coach Jensen, you'd probably take that. Obviously, there's things she wants to fix and fix quickly, but just talk about that mindset. We mentioned it a little bit. If you're winning and learning at the same time, it sure as heck beats losing and getting better at the same time as well.
Yeah, and I think there's certain situations where maybe sometimes a loss helps kind of put things in perspective and get a team going. I think you look back at a couple of Caitlin's teams, that their Final Four runs were kind of fueled after maybe a late season loss that maybe made them a little upset. But I think the good thing about this Iowa team is, like, you look at Monday's game at Northwestern, and Northwestern's probably going to be a bottom of the standings team, might not even make the Big Ten tournament. In fact, I'd probably say they won't make the Big Ten tournament. But in that game, it wasn't just Iowa playing poorly. I mean, you had Ava Hayden in foul trouble. She played 18 minutes, and that's certainly a big issue when she's not on the court for more than half the game. And Kylie Feuerbach was still out with her ankle injury, and Chit Chat Wright was not herself. She was battling an illness, had a fever before the game. They didn't even know she was going to play. So there was some other things I haven't. Some of it, obviously, the foul trouble is partially Ava's fault. can't do anything about a sickness, and obviously Kylie not being back is certainly another thing. So there were other things rather than actually what they did on the court, and I didn't think they played well. They turned it over an awful lot in that game and let Northwestern hang around, but found a way to win with some of the other things that were going on. And then certainly the Indiana game, they cleaned up the turnovers. They only turned it over 10 times, but the offense wasn't flowing smooth early. They were missing some shots that you feel like maybe they could have made, and surprisingly that kind of leaked over into the defensive side. That's something that we haven't seen a lot of, where Iowa's maybe had some stretches where they haven't played well on offense, but they've still been able to pick it up on the defensive end. So Jan was a little surprised that maybe the defense wasn't quite at the same level in the first half against Indiana. But to come back and win was huge, obviously. And like you said, for a team that's still pretty young, still trying to kind of figure out where they're going to be this season, it's big to go and not play your best basketball and win those games, because you're able to go in, whether it's the coaching staff or the players, you can after the game be like, hey, we didn't play our best basketball, but we still found a way to win. It's much different if you go to Indiana and you don't play your best basketball and you lose by 20. Then it doesn't feel good at all. There's no good feeling out of it at all. But to be able to come back and get the win, say, didn't play our best, here's some of the things that we didn't do well, we still won, though. That type of thing is super valuable for a young team. And I think you look at, maybe broader perspective, there's just been a lot of in and out of the lineup of certain things. Chit Chat was injured, had some games where she left early and then she gets sick and had some of that. Kylie Fierbach's been out for a little bit of a stretch. Obviously, Emily Rodriguez has been out for the majority of the season. Ava Hayden's been battling foul trouble here and there. Hannah Stolke's been good and then inconsistent and then good and, a little inconsistent. So there's like a lot of things, whether it's, themselves doing it themselves or just injuries or things like that, that it doesn't feel like there's been a lot of, consistent for several games at a time where things feel the same with this team. And if they can just kind of get some consistency going forward, whether it's just staying healthy or getting consistent play from some of their players, for them to be 5-0 in Big Ten play and sit here and say there's still a lot of room for them to grow and be a lot better by the time the end of the season comes around. You start talking Big Ten tournament and NCAA tournament. I think that's what's exciting about this team. Obviously, they have to gain that consistency and be consistent, and it's entirely possible that they're just not consistent at all throughout the season. Maybe they lose some games that they aren't supposed to. Maybe they win a couple that they're not supposed to. But I do think the ability is there for this team to really grow and be really good as this season goes on.
Kyle, what was it like at halftime? What were your thoughts at halftime? Here's a game, and we talked about this game last week here on the show, and it was a sleepy, tough game for Iowa, where Indiana was going to be motivated, and I don't think they're not nearly as, and this is not to be mean to Northwestern, but they're a more talented team than Northwestern. You can't just show up and play the way you get played against Northwestern and get a victory, and now all of a sudden you're down at halftime and you're like, Iowa's kind of probably due to lose, and this team is playing well. What were your thoughts at halftime, and were you surprised that they made that comeback, and what was it about the second half that was different for the University of Iowa?
Yeah, I think, it was interesting because I've been there the last two times Iowa's played there when Caitlin's teams went there, and one time they lost a pretty good game. And then the last time I was there, they just got smoked by Indiana. So this is the one where I was like, well, I haven't seen Iowa win here yet. And I kind of thought this would be the one that they would do it. And all of a sudden it's 35-19 at halftime. It's like, man, this is just like last time. So yeah, it was an interesting feeling. And I think you're right. We both knew going in that Indiana, and like you said, not to be disrespectful to Northwestern, those were two very different winless teams in Big Ten play. It's playing a winless Northwestern at Northwestern is wildly different than playing a winless Indiana at Indiana. And we said Indiana's way more talented than their record indicates. They played a really tough Big Ten schedule to start. Some really good teams that they lost to, and lost a couple of close games. Lost close to Nebraska. And like you said, they were probably due for a win, and I still think they're very due for a win. They got Washington next, they got Ohio State next. Would not be surprised if they win one of those two games, because they're not bad enough to start like 0-10 in Big Ten play. That's just not how bad they are. I mean, they might not be an NCAA tournament team, but they're much better than 0-6 in Big Ten play to me. So yeah, halftime was one of those where it's like, man, is this the game where Indiana breaks through and gets the win? And I think that, I don't remember if I said it on here. I said my concern going in was that somewhere along the line, it's going to break through for Indiana. You talk about last year for Iowa and that losing streak that they had, the 5-game losing streak. I thought they were going to break through at Oregon. They lose at Oregon. Then it was like, it's going to happen at some point. I picked them to lose at Washington. They go win by like 25. It just came together on that night for them to end the losing streak. And that's what it kind of looked like for Indiana at halftime. Shea Chesky was fantastic. She had 19 points at halftime. And it was like, this kind of looks like the night where, Iowa isn't playing their best and Indiana takes advantage and breaks their losing streak. Now, by far and away, the thing that changed at halftime was the defense that Iowa was using to try to slow down Shea Chesky. And Jan made a point of talking about it after the game. We asked her about it, and they basically went to a defense where they were just trapping on every ball screen on Shea Chesky to try to get the ball out of her hands, to try to speed her up in certain situations, and it worked. She was 1 of 11 from the floor, scored 2 points in the second half. And I think there's going to be people that would point to and say, well, why didn't you just do that from the opening tip? Why didn't you just get the ball out of her hands? And the issue was, Indiana came into the game as one of the better Big Ten or teams in the Big Ten in terms of 3-point percentage, and one of the better teams in the country. They were top 25 in 3-point shooting. Now Shea Chesky was part of that, but they had Maya McCluskey, who had been shooting it really well over the last 10 games. Lene Beaumont is over 40% for the season. So it's one of those where you're like, and Zanaya Saka-Guman was the other one. Their forward down was back from injury. So it's one of those where it's like, I don't think they can do that right from the jump to try to get the ball out of Chesky's hands, because they've got some other players. Now, by halftime, McCluskey hadn't been shooting it well. She had foul trouble. Beaumont was not having her best game. And Saka-Guman was playing well, but it was one of those where it's like, Chesky's beating us right now. She's got 19 points. So they went to that different defense, tried to get the ball out of her hands, and she really rushed some shots in some situations, missed some shots in the third quarter. I think she missed 5 or 6 shots in the third quarter. And the other players that she ended up passing to just, they didn't hit shots. Indiana for the game was 2 of 19 from 3. Which is very unlike them. Like they were a high 30s 3-point shooting team. So it kind of worked out that the way that Iowa switched up and tried to get the ball out of Chesky's hands, that no one else stepped up for Indiana, and Iowa was able to get some stops. And in the third quarter, they had a stretch where they had 11 straight possessions where they got to stop. And that's when you're down by 16 points, that's the type of thing that can get you back into a game. And then finally, Iowa got some shots to fall. Didn't shoot it well from 3 for the game. We were just 4 of 16, but all 4 of those came in the second half. I thought the biggest play of the game was it was 37-30. Iowa was just kind of trying to grind back into the game. It was still one of those situations where you're like, where's the big 3 from Chesky? Where's is Beaumont finally going to hit one? Something like that. And Iowa's got a possession where it's not going well. I think Ava Hayden had the ball knocked away from her. She dives on the floor and is able to wrestle it away from an Indiana player before a jump ball happens, and flips it up, tosses it up to Hannah. Hannah kind of bobbles it and then kicks out to Taylor McCabe, and she knocks down a 3. And she had been struggling, and she hit a couple of big ones in the third quarter. And all of a sudden it's 37-33, where if Iowa turns that over and Indiana, maybe they go score or something, it could have been a 9-point game or something like that. Instead, it's a 4-point game now. Iowa adds on a couple more stops, and Kylie Feuerbach steps up, hits a 3, and a couple possessions later, Hannah Stolke gets her own rebound, and Iowa's got the lead all of a sudden. So I thought that play from Ava Hayden to get on the floor and to get it to Hannah, and Hannah to find, not panic in that situation where the possession's kind of going awry, and find Taylor McCabe on the backside for an open 3. I thought that was kind of the possession that really turned the comeback into a real threat for Iowa to maybe come back and take the lead. And then the other possession that I thought was huge was in that fourth quarter. You always see teams that are, especially on the road, that lose or down by a lot in the first half or down a lot in the second half, and they make this comeback. They exert so much energy to make the comeback that when the opposing team finally hits that big shot or something to maybe regain the lead or something like that, the team that did all that work to come back, they kind of fold at that point. And the big play that happened, Lene Beaumont had a basket, got fouled and converted for a 3-point play, and it put Indiana up 50-48 with 2:53 left. That could have been the play where Iowa comes down. Maybe they don't have a great possession. Now Indiana's got it back. They're up 2 with under 2 or 2.5 minutes to play, and they can potentially go up 2 possessions. Instead, Chit Chat Wright comes down, hits a huge 3 early in the shot clock, and Iowa didn't got a couple of stops and didn't give up the lead late. So I thought Iowa did a really good job of not only getting the stops to put together the comeback, but then when Indiana finally got it going a little bit and they went back and forth for a bit of a stretch there, Iowa didn't flinch in that situation and say, Indiana's hitting shots again. They just continued to put points on the board, and then when they took that opportunity, Chit Chat hits a big 3 and then got a couple more stops to get it done. So I thought I was really impressed by the comeback, and I think it's definitely fair to say Iowa didn't play near their best basketball, but you can also be impressed by their ability to make the comeback. And 56-53 doesn't look like a super pretty win, but Ava Hayden said it best after the game. She said, there are good teams that maybe don't win this game, or maybe they don't win at Northwestern. But potentially teams that want to be great, like a team like them, like they want to be a great team. A great team goes and finds a way to come back against Indiana. They find a way to grind out a Northwestern win when they don't play near their best. So it's one of this whole past week is one of those where you can definitely point out a lot of things that have to get better. But at the end of the day, you look at, and like I said, they're 14-0 overall. They're 5-0 in Big Ten play. It's hard to argue with that right now.
No, absolutely. Kyle Huesmann joining us right now on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. Kyle, or before we move on to this week, Kylie Feuerbach was back in the lineup. What does she mean to this basketball team?
Yeah, I think certainly the first thing that she means is her defensive presence. I mean, her ability to guard the other team's best player and do what she does defensively. And a lot of times it doesn't show up in the stat sheet because she's one of those really, really good defenders that doesn't get a lot of steals. She's not your Hannah Hidalgo who's going to go have like 8 steals in a game and you're like, wow, that was a crazy game by her defensively. Kylie will do the things that don't show up in the stat sheet where you say like, there's nothing that shows up in the stat sheet to say like Kylie Feuerbach closed out or was able to stop that drive where, maybe someone on a MAC team wouldn't have been able to close out quick enough and it would have been an open 3, or maybe a MAC player wouldn't have been able to cut off that drive to the basket or something like that. Kylie's able to do those things that maybe forces a pass or something like that it could have been an open shot with another defender on it from a different team. Just those things that are hard to evaluate unless you like really just watch a bunch of film on it, which I can't say that I watch a ton of film on it to see her impact in every possession, but she just does things that you don't necessarily show up, which is like block shots and steals. It's just hard to evaluate defense at times. But the thing she's done this year, and her 3-point shooting has been about where it is, which is low 30s percentage wise. The thing she's done this year is really limited her turnovers. She's done a great job of, I think she's got 38 assists on the season to just 14 turnovers. So she's done a really good job of limiting mistakes, which in years past she's had some turnover issues at times. Driven too far in the paint, turned over or had some offensive fouls, things like that. But particularly in the Indiana game, plays just over 21 minutes, didn't have a single turnover. She didn't have an assist, but 21 minutes and 8 seconds and didn't have a single turnover. That's pretty impressive. And like I said, she hit a big 3 in the third quarter during the comeback, had a couple of free throws that she made. And then it's just a veteran presence on the team. And she can do a little bit from the bench when she was injured, but it's different, when you're trying to make a comeback in a road environment at Indiana, to have a Kylie Feuerbach out there who can, be that veteran presence for this team, along with, Hannah Stolke and Taylor McCabe are out there as well. But it's just big to have her back in the lineup. And I think, at times people look at, she finishes with 5 points, took 2 shots, and people are like, well, why is she on the court that much? It's because the veteran presence, the defense, and I think having her back in the lineup is going to be huge going forward.
You look at going forward, it's a Thursday night game at Carver Hawkeye, a Sunday night game at Carver Hawkeye. 2 good basketball teams coming to town. Oregon first. That game against Michigan State, ranked 15th. I think they're 16-1 on the season, playing really good basketball. They beat Illinois last week and several other teams. Let's start with Oregon, and you're back home. So I think Iowa likes being back home. But Kyle, there's going to be a noticeable upgrade in competition this next week. Your thoughts maybe with Oregon first. What can Iowa fans expect? Because that's a 14-4, really solid Oregon basketball team.
Yeah, and I think, Indiana was in its own right a tough game, but you're starting to get into the stretch of Big Ten teams where, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really know what to expect from a lot of these Big Ten teams. There's a huge group of teams in this conference. There's UCLA at number 1, who is very obviously the number 1 team by far and away, in my opinion. And then after that, it's, on any given night, who knows what's going to happen. I mean, you look at some of the results. My favorite one so far is Michigan beating Purdue by, I think they beat them by like 48 points. Then Washington beats Michigan by double digits, and then Washington loses at Purdue. I just don't know how that happens. I don't know how Washington loses at Purdue. But I mean, Maryland's a team. You look at a team like Maryland. We thought Maryland was going to be one of those top teams. They beat Kentucky, which was a huge win in non-conference play. They lost to Illinois. They just lost to Ohio State, and it took a miracle in double overtime to beat Minnesota. They could have 3 Big Ten losses right now. So there's just a lot going on, and I could go on and on. There's a lot of just stuff that one night you say, oh, it's a good win for so-and-so, and then 2 nights later you're like, well, how did they lose to them, though? Yeah. So I don't know what to expect from Oregon. I think at their best, Oregon shot the 3 ball really well the last 4 or 5 games. They're over 40% as a team over the last 4 games. So that's one area to look at. Katie Fiso, sophomore point guard, has done a really good job running that offense. Kind of had a limited role behind Deja Kelly last year, who was the North Carolina transfer. Fiso will turn it over a bit, but has 130 assists on the season, which is up there in the top 5, top 10 in the country. And then is their leading scorer in Big Ten play, averaging almost 18 points a game. They've got other pieces around her that'll do some things. I think they have 3 scores in double figures in Big Ten play. So they've got some other pieces. They do really they're just really bad on the glass. They're last in the Big Ten in a couple of categories, or second to last in the Big Ten in a couple of categories, giving up almost 16 offensive rebounds a game. which is just a ton of possessions to give up. They're not great on the offensive glass either. They've got a couple of players that'll grab some offensive boards, but this is a game where if Iowa thinks that they're one of the elite rebounding teams in the country, which statistically they are, this is one where they've really got to be good on the glass, get those second possessions, clear the defensive glass, because that's how you're going to beat this Oregon team is by really blowing it up on the glass and making it hard for them. Rebounding is one of those key categories. What are second chance points? What do you allow in terms of second chance points? And Oregon will force some turnovers defensively. So if Iowa can really be strong on the glass and then maybe limit turnovers, they only had 10 against Indiana. I think if Iowa can control those two categories, I think they win this game. But again, Oregon was down big against USC on the road, and they come back and win that game. Had a couple of players step up that maybe you wouldn't have expected to hit some big shots. I mean, Ari Long is someone that's shooting just over 30% from three for the season, hit 3 threes in the fourth quarter of that game to win. I think that's a very good example of how the Big Ten's going this year, where there's going to be certain teams on certain nights where you say, how did that player do that? Or how did that team win that game? So we're getting into, I think it's like the next 9 games for Iowa, either ranked teams or teams like a team like Oregon, where it's like, hey, Oregon at their best can certainly come into Iowa City and win that game, especially if Iowa plays like they have the last couple of games. So Iowa's got to be better. But I would say right now that's a very winnable game. And I think certainly part of it is that Oregon's got to come all the way to Iowa City. Iowa had to go all the way to Oregon last year. So that's certainly part of it, the travel aspect. But I would have Iowa favored by, not a ton, but a decent margin on Thursday night.
You look at Sunday. We'll look ahead a little bit. Your thoughts on Sunday, and Michigan State's been impressive as well. And it's another, we're going to go back to it, another one of those teams that is kind of trying to figure out what's the second tier maybe of the Big Ten, if that makes any sense. Your thoughts on the Spartans, maybe a little earlier, obviously one game at a time, but we can do that. We're the media. Michigan State.
Yeah, I think Michigan State's just a huge game on Sunday, especially if Iowa is able to beat Oregon. And Michigan State, I believe, is going to Nebraska. I can't remember if it's at Nebraska or in East Lansing. If Iowa and Michigan State win, you're talking about 17-1 Michigan State and 15-2 Iowa. Michigan State would be 6-1 in Big Ten play. Iowa would be 6-0. That's a huge game at Carver on Sunday night. One of the weird, I think it might be their only Sunday night game of the season. That's a huge game. Like you said, we're trying to figure out stuff. Michigan State is that upper tier. I think it's very possible there isn't an upper tier. It's UCLA in that upper tier, and then maybe it's Michigan, maybe it's Maryland if they can get it going. Maybe it's Michigan State and Iowa in that kind of that secondary category, fighting for third, fourth, fifth, second in the Big Ten. Someone's going to have to get second. They've got a lot of options on that team. Their only loss this season was kind of a weird one at Wisconsin. They were down a couple of players, I think, for that game. Grace Van Sluten, who's their leading scorer, I think she got hit in the eye in that game. I had to go get like stitches or something in the middle of the game. So they were down 2 or 3 players for a bit of that game. But they've got a lot of options. Kennedy Blair is a young guard for them that has been really good this year. I can't remember if she redshirted last year or didn't play much last year. I did not know about her coming into the season. She's averaging in double figures. She's got almost 100 assists on the season. Really like what I've seen from her in the time that I've gotten to see her this season. They've just got some really solid players. It's a game that, again, I think it could go either way. I think if Michigan State's playing at their best, which they kind of are right now, like you mentioned they beat Illinois. They go out west and they beat Washington on the road by 15, and then they go and they beat Oregon, put up 85 points against Oregon. So they're playing some really good basketball as of late. They also beat Ole Miss just before Christmas, which is a ranked win. So I think it's one of those that Iowa certainly has to be at their best for. And we talked about Indiana maybe being due for a win in Big Ten play. Iowa's maybe due for a loss at this point. I think if they get through Oregon and they were able to get through Michigan State on Sunday and they hit Monday morning at 7-0 in Big Ten play, I would be very impressed. I think it's very possible that Iowa loses one of these next 2 games, especially if they don't get it completely cleaned up from the Northwestern and Indiana game. I would say the Michigan State game is certainly the more losable of the 2. But if Iowa hits Monday and they're 7-0 in Big Ten play, that's going to be really impressive if they're able to do that.
Kyle, before I let you go, who's the second best team of the Big Ten?
I have absolutely no idea. I really don't. I would say maybe I think it's Michigan when they're playing at their best, and I think Maryland's had some injury issues this year. They don't have a lot of size, and I think maybe that's catching up to them a little bit. I haven't really watched them. I don't really have a lot of time to like break down film of other teams, I guess, to see what's going wrong. But you look at the Big Ten standings right now, and there's just a lot of I don't understand what's going on. You got Iowa at 5-0, you got UCLA at 5-0, Michigan State's there, Ohio State's there, Michigan's there at 5-1. Ohio State's kind of the one that's maybe the one that hasn't really been talked about a lot. They just went on the road and beat Maryland. They've looked pretty good. They beat Illinois as well. So maybe Ohio State's thrown their hat in the ring to be one of those top teams. I don't know if there's a second best team right now. I think, like I said, somebody has to get second. But last year, I think there was a giant tie for 5th place or 6th place. I was in like a 5-way tie for 6th place last year and missed out on it. I think we could have one of those in the 2 or 3 area where there's just a bunch of teams that end with a kind of a similar record. I still think UCLA runs away with this. Right now, I wouldn't pick them to lose the game. I think it'd be really surprising if they went 18-0, but I have no idea who that would be that's going to beat them because no one has shown right now that they can do it. So I think Iowa, Michigan State, Ohio State, certainly Michigan, those are probably the top 4 right now that I would say would be your 4 through or your 2 through 5 in the Big Ten. And they've all got to play each other. To my knowledge, I don't think any of them have played each other. Iowa hasn't played any of them. They'll get Michigan State. I don't think Ohio State's played Michigan State or Michigan. So that'll get worked out on its own, but they're still even past that. Like Maryland's still a really solid team, and we saw what Illinois can do. They beat Maryland. They played close against Michigan State. Minnesota just beat USC. Nebraska. We saw Nebraska play Iowa, and they're certainly a good team. Oregon's not a bad team. USC is 10-6, but I mean, still a team that's pretty good. And then Washington obviously beat Michigan. So you just go down the list, and it's like on any given night, we don't know what to expect. So Iowa's got Purdue left. They got to go to Purdue. I think that's a win that you can probably pencil in. And then obviously they close the season at Wisconsin, which I think is probably one that you can pencil in. They beat them like 31 times in a row. But outside of that, what is that? Iowa's played 5 Big Ten games. They've got, am I missing? There'd be 11 other Big Ten games. I think they could win 10 of them. I don't think they're beating UCLA. I think they could win the other 10 games. I think they could lose the other 10 games.
That's wild.
Now they're not going to go 10-0 and they're not going to go 0-10.
Yep.
But I just think that they could win all of those and they could lose all of them. It's just going to kind of depend on what Iowa team shows up from here on out, what teams that they play, what kind of version of those teams show up on any given night. I will say I think that makes it really exciting. It makes my job of writing game previews and trying to do a prediction very hard. I don't know. I might have to start writing at the very end, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen tonight.
Do you have an Oregon prediction yet?
I am going to pick Iowa to beat Oregon. I don't have a final score or anything yet. I haven't really dug super far into that stuff yet. I do think because of Oregon struggling on the glass, both offensive and defensive, I think that's an area where Iowa can do well. Now, Indiana struggled on the glass as well, and Iowa ended up tying 40-40 with them on the glass. Now, obviously, Iowa missed. I think they missed like 20 shots in the first half, so that helped Indiana to grab a bunch of defensive rebounds. But I do think this is an area where if Iowa can really get it going on both ends on the boards, and then limit their turnovers, because Oregon's been able to force some turnovers. If Iowa can do that, I think they should be able to win the game. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it'll be exciting because there's going to be a lot of games where going in, it's like, who knows what's going to happen tonight. It'll depend on what Iowa team shows up. It'll depend on whoever they're playing, what team shows up. So that makes it fun. I think the Big Ten maybe doesn't have the top level teams of like an SEC conference does, but I think Iowa from basically 1 to 13 is deeper than any other conference. I don't think there's a number 13 team in the SEC or the number 13 team in the ACC or the Big 12 where that team can beat you on any given night. I don't think that any other conference has their teams that are 10, 11, 12, 13 in the standings that you're like, man, that's who knows, they could beat us tonight type thing.
Well, that makes sense. Before I let you go, a little football. I know you'll be at Carver Hawkeye on Sunday, so you won't get to watch the Bears and the Rams. My Rams. I guess I'm going to start that. My Rams. But I know you're watching Poppy. You got to see some of it last week. Obviously, you were in Indiana probably during the Bears-Packers games. But as a Bengals fan, right? What do you think of the Bears?
I'm impressed with their ability to, and now I saw it firsthand with their ability to scrape out the wildest win. Maybe one of the more crazy games I've ever seen against the Bengals with how that went down. It's one of those things where like they've won so many close games and they've come back from certainly a bunch of deficits as well. It seems like every crazy game they win starts with them being down like 17 points.
You
or
expect
something.
It almost sometimes.
And it's almost one of those things where like you keep saying like, okay, next time they're down by like the Packers. They're down 21-3. It's like, well, it's going to catch up with them. This is the night where they get a big deficit, and they're not going to win. But then they do it, and it's kind of like, well, at a certain point, it feels like it's going to catch up with them, right? But like, there's not many games left for it to catch up with them.
Right.
So, I was shocked they came back against the Packers. I mean, fantastic effort from them to do it. Now, I will say my dad's a Rams fan, so I'll probably be rooting for the Rams in that game. But we'll see. I mean, I know a bunch of Bears fans.
How's your dad a Rams fan and you're a Bengals fan? Is there an abbreviated story on how all that crap happened?
So the abbreviated story would be my dad is a Rams fan. The reason he always tells me is he thought it was really cool that the Rams, back when everybody wore leather helmets, they were the first team to put any type of logo. They painted the ram horn on the helmet. And I guess he thought that was cool that they were the first one to come up with, hey, we should, put something on these things. Now there's a picture somewhere of me wearing a Rams jersey when I was like 3 years old. But what happened is, so I was learning the NFL teams at literally at like 3 years old. My dad printed off, went on like Excel and put a border on with the team name and put like the helmet in there, and cut them all out, laminated them. And that's how I learned the MLB teams, the NFL teams. And, apparently at 3 years old, I really liked the Bengals, tiger stripe helmet. So yeah, there's a picture out there somewhere of me wearing a Rams jersey at like 3 years old, but I switched to the Bengals around that time when apparently the tiger helmet was something that I was drawn to, and it didn't work. It hasn't worked out yet because the Rams won a Super Bowl over the Bengals. So that was kind of the big game where that was the payoff. Like if the Bengals win, I made the right choice. And if the Rams do, then maybe not. But yeah, that's the abbreviated version of how I became a Bengals fan.
Real quick, our poll question today is: what will the NFC Championship game be? So will it be Seattle and the Bears at Seattle? Will it be the Rams at Seattle? Will it be the I don't have it in front of me, but who's winning this week?
I am gonna go. I think the Rams are gonna win. And then I'm going to go with Seattle. I would have loved to pick the 49ers, but man, I haven't said anything. Like, man, George Kittle going down with the Achilles injury. I mean, that's. I wouldn't want to see anyone really go down with an Achilles injury. But out of all the Iowa guys, even George Kittle is one of the best ones out there. For him to go down with that is really brutal to see. And I mean, especially in the playoffs, because now like next season's basically done for him, right? So yeah, super tough to see that go down. I will go with Seattle. Just because the 49ers have been all right, but with Kittle out, that's a big blow to their offense. So I'll take the Seahawks and the Rams. Then on the AFC side, I'm going to go with Houston. Their defense is just nuts. I mean, I know the pick six late last night.
Why do I think Josh Allen's eventually going to win a Super Bowl this year? Is that too easy?
They've got the Broncos. Man, my uncle's a Broncos fan. So we'll see. I do like Josh Allen.
Family can any two Huesmanns like the same team, or is it like everybody's got to pick a different team?
I don't think there's really. We have more people that don't really care that much about football than people that have the same teams. But yeah, my uncle's a Broncos fan, so I like Josh Allen though. So I have a lot of games this playoffs, like Green Bay and the Bears. I was just kind of watching because I know people on both sides of that. Yeah. Rams, Bears, obviously my dad, and then friends that are Bears fans. So it's a lot of like somebody that I know is going to be happy. I think the Broncos are pretty good.
Is it wrong that I look at football and if I can't be healthy or happy, I don't want anyone else to be happy. So it all relates in my world.
I don't know games where I can't
Go ahead.
Well, yeah. So Packers Bears, I know people on both sides, so I can't. And what are they going to tie in the playoffs? That's not allowed. So
there's an option, but I won't bring it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm going to go with Houston against Denver, and then the Rams against the Seahawks, and that's four teams that outside of the Rams, no one expected. So that would be kind of fun to see some of that, but. Yeah, Houston and the Broncos would be just probably the most elite defensive game we've ever seen, in my opinion. That would be crazy.
That Houston defense was crazy last night. Now, Pittsburgh's offensively challenged at times. They had DK back, but I was surprised how dominant they were. Hopefully the Iowa Hawkeyes are dominant this week at Carver Hawkeye. They're at home on Thursday. Kyle will be there, of course, and have you covered on the Hawkeye Report. Kyle, I appreciate you. Be good.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, that is Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report, and go vote. That's the poll question up right now. Also, if it's a busy week for the Iowa Hawkeyes when it comes to basketball, and nothing's on the same night. So Wednesday night, Iowa Purdue men. Thursday, the women play. Saturday, the men are at Indiana, and then Sunday evening during that little football game between the Bears and the Rams. There's the Iowa game against Michigan State. So we got more to get to. You watch an OTA on a Thursday. Excuse me, it's Tuesday. Man, I wish it was Thursday. It's Tuesday. We'll be right back.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Tuesday in the Quad Cities. Thank you guys for taking the show in, whether it's on YouTube, X, if you're listening on the podcasting platforms, all those kind of things. We really do appreciate it as well. It's been a fun show. A couple news and notes to wrap things up with before we get out of here. Just about 15 minutes ago, the University of Illinois made an announcement. They're getting a new scoreboard, and it's a huge new scoreboard. It'll be a video scoreboard, obviously, or a video board. Probably get score out of there. Just a video board. They put a little video on social media. We'll show it to you tomorrow. I thought about trying to get in and showing it to you now, but with everything else going on, I didn't want to mess with technology and me sometimes. It's been a good day, so we're going to leave it as a good day. I would say it's probably 6 times bigger than the video board they have now. Said it was the largest one. It will be the largest one in college football. So obviously, the donation they received earlier in the year, paying dividends already. So we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. Also, there's a poll question going on right now on OTA. We do one each and every day. We appreciate you guys chiming in and chatting about it and all that good stuff as well. Let me find today's poll question is, that can't be right. Let me re-update it. It was there, but that was from a while ago. It's simple. The schedule is, and yes, it's the largest video board in college football. It's what's coming to Champaign. So anyways, the poll question is, what will the NFC championship matchup be? Niners Bears, so it'll be the Bears and Niners winning, is at 23%. Bears Seahawks right now at 15.4%. Rams and Seahawks would be 38.5%. Niners Rams 23%. So all of them pretty equal. Our good friend Brian Stocking weighed in and said not trusting Sam Darnold in meaningful games. Bears run of rabbit's feet have run out. Bears run out of rabbit's feet and get exposed by the Rams. The Bears have been exposed several times this season. They got exposed by the Niners, and then the Lions, and then even half of the Packers game. But they figure out a way to win, and it's hard to go against a team that's that always figures it out, and they're at home. So the Bears aren't going to win the Super Bowl in my opinion, but they could win this week. I haven't figured it out yet. Everything that's smart about football tells me, and I said last week, the Rams, in my opinion, are the most complete team in the NFC, and I believe that. Great passing game, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Matthew Stafford, all of those kind of things. Good offensive line. They run the football with 2 running backs in Kyren Williams and Blake Corum. Their defense is underrated and really good. They have a good kicker and a good special teams. They're the most complete team. But the Bears figured out a way to win. Like, you can't look X's and O's. You got to factor in the fact that they figure it out and do crazy, weird things at the end of games. So we'll talk more about predictions, but if you want to weigh in, go to @Matt Randazzo and weigh in on the poll question that we have going on right now. I'll try to post it a little higher in my social media coming up here in just a little bit as well. Okay, so tomorrow, I'm excited about tomorrow. Scott Docterman will be here. We'll talk about the Iowa football season, wrap up the Illinois football season a little bit, talk about the transfer portal for both. There's a national championship game coming up less than a week from right now, Monday. We'll talk about that as well. Indiana's playing for a college football national championship, and in all intents and purposes, they're probably going to win it. Isn't it crazy? That's wild to think about. So Scott Docterman from The Athletic, one of the best in the business. We'll talk about his Bears as well. We got a lot to get to with Doc coming up tomorrow. Also, it is Wednesday. Jake Brend will join us talking about the Cyclones. Addie Brown has a injury. She's out indefinitely for the women. The men are ranked second in the country. The football roster continues to change all the time. So really enjoy our Wednesdays and our chats with Jake Brend. We'll do that tomorrow. That and much more. So if I'm already looking at Scott Docterman and Jake Brend tomorrow, my prep isn't that much. I feel like I'm already way ahead of schedule for the show tomorrow, which is exciting and good. So we'll get caught up with them. We'll get Nicholas Bear on sometime this week. I got to find out if the Bear Cage wants to do something before the Purdue game, maybe after Purdue game. We'll kind of figure it out and talk with the Bear Cage later this week as well, and so much more. Again, I want to thank our guest today, Casey Kreiter. Just such a great representative of the Quad City area, of DeWitt, of Iowa football, and now 10 years complete in the NFL, which is awesome. So we talked to him about that, Iowa football, Central DeWitt football, everything else. Go check out the Casey Kreiter interview. That was a lot of fun. Also, a great chat with Angelo Jackson, an Assumption standout who just finished up his redshirt freshman season with Iowa State football. He's staying. He's excited. He talked about what it was like finding out, the meetings afterwards, what the future looks like, all of those kind of things. Great chat with Angelo Jackson. Go check that out as well. And then also Kyle Huesmann talking Iowa women's basketball. They're back at home. 2 games this week, Thursday and Sunday. Get to Carver. Support the 5-0 Iowa women. I think they're 14-2 overall. And 5-0 in the Western Big Six. So, the Big Ten. So go check out our interview with Kyle Huesmann as well. That was a ton of fun. So we got a lot set for tomorrow. I want to thank you guys for watching today's show. Again, tell a friend about what we're doing. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. That always helps. Same thing with the audio. Subscribe as well. And we got some fun stuff coming up later in January. We'll start telling you about later this week as well. So thank you guys so much for watching Off the Air on a Tuesday. We will see you right back here coming up tomorrow.